The sky above Washington, D.C. was clear and blue when the world changed forever. People walked to work, drank coffee, and complained about traffic. No one knew that alien eyes were watching Earth from beyond the moon. Lieutenant Jack Collins sat at his desk in the underground NORAD facility, monitoring deep space communications as he had done for the past 3 years. At 28, Jack was young for his position, but his natural gift for languages and patterns had made him valuable to the military. He sipped his cold coffee and adjusted his headset, scanning through the usual cosmic background noise. A series of regular pulses caught his attention. At first, he thought it might be a pulsar or some other natural phenomenon. But as he focused on the signal, he noticed patterns too regular to be natural. His heart began to race. After years of listening to empty static, he might have found something real. "Dr. Wells, I think you need to see this." Jack called across the monitoring room. Patricia Wells looked up from her computer. At 45, she had spent most of her career with SETI, searching for signs of intelligent life beyond Earth. She had joined the military program 3 years ago when funding for civilian projects dried up. She walked over, her practical shoes making no sound on the carpeted floor. "What have you got, Lieutenant?" she asked, leaning over his shoulder. "A signal. Definitely artificial. And it's strong, like it's being aimed directly at us." Dr. Wells frowned as she studied the pattern. "How long has it been transmitting?" "It just started 7 minutes ago." "But there's something else." Jack pointed to another reading on his screen. "We're picking up objects decelerating at the edge of our solar system. Big objects." Dr. Wells straightened up, her face pale. "Call General Morrison. Now." Within 2 hours, the president sat in the Situation Room, surrounded by military leaders, scientists, and intelligence officers. The signal had been partially decoded, revealing a message that chilled everyone who heard it. "They're giving us 48 hours to surrender," General Frank Morrison explained. His weathered face showed no emotion, but the tension in his shoulders betrayed his concern. At 60, he had seen combat on 3 continents, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. "Surrender or what?" the president asked. "Or they will, in their words, begin the process of planetary acquisition, which our linguists believe is a polite term for invasion." The room fell silent. Satellite images showed 7 massive ships larger than aircraft carriers slowing as they approached Earth's orbit. Their technology was clearly far beyond anything humans possessed. "What are our options?" the president finally asked. "Militarily speaking, we don't know enough about their capabilities to assess our chances," General Morrison answered honestly. "Their ships suggest technology centuries ahead of ours." Captain Lisa Donovan cleared her throat. All eyes turned to the Special Forces officer. At 34, she was one of the youngest people in the room, but had more combat experience than most. "Sir, may I offer a perspective?" she asked. The president nodded. "These aliens have clearly been watching us for some time. They've seen our technology, our weapons, our infrastructure. But I don't think they understand humans. If they did, they wouldn't expect us to simply surrender." "Explain," the president said, leaning forward. "Throughout human history, technological advantages haven't always determined the outcome of conflicts. The Afghans held off the Soviet Union. Vietnam withstood America. Determination, adaptation, and the willingness to endure have often overcome superior firepower." Jack Collins, who had been invited to the meeting as the first contact specialist, nodded in agreement. Their message shows they expect a rational response based on an assessment of relative strength. That's not how humans typically react to threats. "So what are you suggesting?" the president asked. Captain Donovan's eyes flashed with an idea. "Show them who they're really dealing with. Not just our weapons, but our nature as fighters." "A demonstration of force?" General Morrison asked, skeptical. No, a demonstration of humanity. Captain Donovan stood up and walked to the screen showing the alien ships. We send them our history. Not the sanitized version, but the real one. Combat. Footage from throughout human history. Show them what happens when humans are backed into a corner. The room buzzed with conversation. Some thought the idea was crazy. Others wondered if it might work. The president raised a hand for silence. Dr. Wells, in your opinion, how might an alien species react to human warfare? Patricia Wells considered the question carefully. It would depend on their own evolutionary path. If they evolved as predators like us, they might recognize and respect our combat abilities. If they evolved differently, perhaps as hive minds or from herbivore ancestors, they might find our violence shocking or incomprehensible. And these aliens? What's your guess? The president pressed. Based on the formal, almost ritualized, nature of their communication, I suspect they're not used to the kind of chaotic, adaptive warfare humans practice. They expect submission based on a rational assessment of technology. They don't expect resistance after defeat is logically determined. The president nodded slowly. So we show them that humans don't always follow logic when our homes are threatened. Exactly, Captain Donovan said. We don't hide our military history. We highlight it. The plan came together quickly. Jack Collins and Dr. Wells would work on translating human concepts of warfare into terms the aliens might understand. Meanwhile, a team led by Sergeant Kevin Ramirez would compile the footage. Sergeant Ramirez was a 25-year-old Marine who had seen combat in 3 different countries. When told about the plan, he grinned. So we're going to scare them with videos? I like it. His team gathered in a secure room filled with screens. They had access to military archives from around the world, historical battle reenactments, modern combat footage, training videos, special operations missions. Don't just show the victories, Sergeant Ramirez instructed. Show humans fighting when all hope is lost. Show last stands. Show people returning to battle after being wounded. Show civilian resistance movements. As the team worked, Jack Collins and Dr. Wells struggled to translate concepts like fighting spirit, never surrender, and death before dishonor into the alien language they were still learning. How do you explain the Alamo to a species that might not understand choosing death over surrender? Jack wondered. We need to make them understand that technological superiority doesn't guarantee an easy victory against humans. Dr. Wells replied. We need them to see that occupying Earth would cost them more than they're willing to pay. 40 hours after receiving the aliens' message, Earth's response was ready. The president reviewed the package of combat footage, historical narratives, and explanations of human psychology. Will this work? He asked the room. No one could answer with certainty. But as General Morrison put it, if they're smart enough to travel between stars, they're smart enough to recognize a bad investment when they see one. With 8 hours remaining before the aliens' deadline, Earth transmitted its response. Then the waiting began. 8 hours passed slowly. The world held its breath as the alien deadline approached. In the NORAD Command Center, Lieutenant Jack Collins and Dr. Patricia Wells watched their screens for any response. Military forces worldwide remained on high alert. Fighter jets patrolled the skies, and submarines lurked in deep waters, though everyone knew these weapons would likely be useless against the alien technology. Anything? General Morrison asked as he entered the room. Dark circles under. His eyes showed he hadn't slept. Nothing yet, sir, Jack replied. They received our transmission. We confirmed that, but no response. Captain Lisa Donovan paced near the back wall. Maybe they're still watching it. We sent a lot of material. The plan had been bold. instead of begging for mercy or showing military parades. Earth had sent the aliens raw footage of human combat throughout history. Ancient battles recreated from historical records. Medieval warfare with its brutal hand-to-hand combat. The trenches of World War I, where men endured hell on Earth. The island-hopping campaigns of the Pacific War. Urban combat in destroyed cities. Guerrilla warfare in dense jungles. But they hadn't just sent footage of organized military action. Sergeant Kevin Ramirez had insisted on including civilian resistance movements, ordinary people fighting back against overwhelming odds with whatever weapons they could find. They need to understand that even if they defeat our armies, they'll still have to deal with our people, Kevin had explained while selecting footage of resistance, fighters from various conflicts. The team had also included explanations of human concepts like never give up, fight to the last man, and death before surrender. Dr. Wells had worked hard to translate these ideas into terms the aliens might understand. "Sir, we're getting something," Jack suddenly announced. Everyone in the room tensed as his fingers flew across the keyboard. "It's from the alien fleet." The main screen lit up with strange symbols that the computer slowly translated into English. The message was short. Clarification required. Is the provided material factual historical record or fictional entertainment? Dr. Wells frowned. They don't believe what they're seeing. Or they're hoping it's not real, Captain Donovan suggested. The president, who had joined them an hour earlier, nodded. Tell them it's all real, and tell them we have more. Jack sent the response. 20 minutes later, another message arrived. Request additional information on human recovery from physical damage during conflict. Dr. Wells leaned forward. They're interested in our medical capabilities. How we treat wounded soldiers and return them to battle. Show them everything, General Morrison ordered. Field hospitals, combat medics, medevac operations. Sergeant Ramirez and his team quickly compiled footage of battlefield medicine throughout history. They showed medics dragging wounded soldiers to safety under heavy fire. Field surgeries performed with basic tools. Modern trauma care that could save soldiers who would have died in earlier wars. Rehabilitation centers where wounded veterans learn to use prosthetic limbs. Add material about how wounded veterans often become our most determined fighters, Captain Donovan suggested. Show them that injuring humans often makes us fight harder, not less. The new package was sent to the alien fleet. This time, the response came more quickly. Clarification required on autonomous decision-making by individual combat units when separated from Central Command. Jack looked up from his screen. I think they're struggling to understand how our military functions. They might have a more centralized command structure. They might be a hive mind, Dr. Wells suggested, or something similar. Individual initiative might be a foreign concept to them. Captain Donovan smiled slightly. That's an advantage for us. Show them how human soldiers adapt when communications fail. Show them squad leaders making decisions in the field. The team worked quickly, gathering examples of small units operating independently behind enemy lines. Special forces teams completing missions with minimal outside contact. Soldiers adapting to unexpected situations without waiting for orders. Sergeant Ramirez added footage of the famous Lost Battalion from World War I, surrounded but refusing to surrender. He included modern examples of surrounded units, finding creative ways to complete their missions despite being cut off. Add material about civilian innovation during wartime, the president suggested. Show them how humans develop new weapons and tactics under pressure. This new package was sent to the aliens. Hours passed. The deadline for Earth's surrender had come and gone, but the alien fleet remained in position beyond the moon. They hadn't attacked, but they hadn't left either. Why? Haven't they responded? General Morrison asked, the tension evident in his voice. "They're probably discussing what to do," Dr. Wells said. Our response wasn't what they expected. Just then, Jack's console beeped. Incoming transmission. Video format this time. The main screen showed an alien for the first time. The creature had blue-gray skin and large, compound eyes like an insect. It had 4 arms and appeared to be wearing some kind of uniform. When it spoke, the computer translated its clicks and whistles into English. "I am Commander Zeal of the Niskan Confederation. We have reviewed your historical records with great interest. We request direct communication with your military leadership to discuss several points of clarification before proceeding further." The room fell silent. The aliens hadn't attacked. They wanted to talk. "Is this good news?" the president asked quietly. "They're curious," Dr. Wells replied. "That's better than hostile." Captain Donovan nodded. "They're reassessing. Our footage made them stop and think." General Morrison straightened his uniform. "Tell them I'll speak with them directly." Jack set up the video link. As General Morrison prepared to address the aliens, Sergeant Ramirez leaned close to Captain Donovan. "Do you think they're scared of us now?" he whispered. "Not yet," she replied. "But they're starting to realize we're not what they expected." The video connection went live. General Morrison stood tall as he faced the alien commander. "This is General Frank Morrison of Earth's United Defense Forces. We are prepared to discuss terms, but understand this: Earth will not surrender. If you choose conflict, we will defend our home with everything we have." Commander Zill's large eyes blinked rapidly. "Your combat records have raised questions among our leadership. We wish to understand if all humans fight with the same ... intensity ... shown in your historical documents." General Morrison's answer was simple and direct. "What you saw was only a small sample of human history. And yes, Commander, all humans will fight to protect their homes and families. That is our nature." The aliens seem to consider this. "We will require time to consult with our Central Command regarding this new information." The screen went dark. The aliens had more to discuss. Earth had gained time, but the danger remained. In the silent command room, a new feeling began to grow. Not quite hope, but something close to it. The aliens were thinking twice about attacking Earth. The plan was working. Aboard the Niskan flagship, Commander Zill reviewed the human combat footage again. The large chamber was filled with the top officers of the invasion fleet. None of them spoke as the screens showed humans fighting in various environments and time periods. The images troubled them deeply. The Niskan had conquered 17 other worlds in their expansion across the galaxy. Each conquest had followed the same pattern: show overwhelming technological power, demand surrender, and accept the submission of the inferior species. No species had ever continued fighting once defeat was clearly inevitable. It was illogical, wasteful, and against the natural order as the Niskan understood it. But these humans were different. "Play the section on guerrilla warfare again," Commander Zill ordered. The screen showed small groups of humans hiding in jungles, deserts, and mountains, striking at larger forces, and then disappearing. Dr. Cal, the fleet's chief medical officer, shuddered. Her 6-fingered hands trembled slightly as she watched. They continue fighting even with minimal resources and no hope of conventional victory. This defies rational behavior models. Lieutenant Mev, a young tactical officer who had studied the footage most carefully, nodded. They adapt quickly. Note how their tactics change within the same conflict as they learn their enemy's weaknesses. Admiral Vec Thora, the overall commander of the Niskan fleet, watched in silence. Unlike the others, who had blue-gray skin, the Admiral's skin had a purple tint, marking his higher status. After several minutes, he spoke. What troubles me most is not their weapons or tactics, but their mindset. Play the footage of their wounded. The screen showed human medics dragging injured soldiers from battlefields. It showed field hospitals where humans with terrible injuries were treated. Most disturbing to the Niskan, it showed soldiers returning to battle after recovering from wounds that would have ended a Niskan's fighting days forever. Their pain tolerance is extraordinary, Dr. Cal noted. They willingly endure physical trauma that would incapacitate our species. Commander Zill turned to the strategic officer. Pell, how does this information affect our invasion plans? Officer. Pell's compound eyes reflected the glow from his data screens. Our original plan assumed the humans would surrender once we demonstrated our technological superiority. All models now indicate this assumption was incorrect. Could we simply destroy them from orbit? Admiral Vic Thora asked. Technically, yes, Pell replied. But our directive is to capture the planet with minimal damage to its resources. A full orbital bombardment would defeat the purpose of our mission. Lieutenant Mev spoke up again. There is another factor to consider. The humans' footage shows they become more resourceful when facing destruction. If we escalate to planetary bombardment, surviving humans might develop even more extreme resistance methods. The Admiral's antennae twitched with irritation. Are you suggesting these primitives could threaten us? Not with their current technology, Mev clarified. But their adaptation rate is unlike anything we've encountered. Given time and sufficient motivation, they might develop countermeasures we haven't anticipated. Back on Earth, the waiting continued. 12 hours had passed since General Morrison's conversation with Commander Zill. The alien fleet remained in position, but made no hostile moves. In the NORAD command center, Jack Collins monitored all frequencies for any alien transmissions. Dr. Wells analyzed the brief video contact they'd had, trying to learn more about the aliens' biology and psychology. Their eyes suggest they evolved from hive-minded creatures, she told Captain Donovan. Compound eyes like insects. That might explain their confusion about our individual decision-making. Captain Donovan nodded. If they function more as a collective, they might not understand how humans can fight effectively in small groups, or even alone. Sergeant Ramirez entered the room with fresh coffee for everyone. The young Marine had been awake for nearly 30 hours, but showed no signs of fatigue. Any news? He asked. Nothing yet, Jack replied. They're being very quiet. General Morrison joined them, his face showing the strain of the situation. The president is addressing the nation in an hour. People are scared. We need something to tell them. As if on cue, Jack's console beeped. Incoming transmission. The main screen lit up. Commander Zill appeared, but this time he was not alone. Admiral Vic Thora sat beside him, his purple skin and elaborate uniform marking him as the higher-ranking officer. I am Admiral Vic Thora of the Niskan Confederation, the alien began. We have reviewed your combat records extensively. We have questions. General Morrison stepped forward. Ask your questions, Admiral. Your species continues fighting even when defeat is certain. This is not rational. From our perspective, fighting to protect our home is perfectly rational. The general replied, Humans do not accept defeat easily. The Admiral's antennae twitched. You fight individually, in small groups, without central coordination. How can this be effective? Captain Donovan stepped forward. May I answer, General? When Morrison nodded, she addressed the alien. Humans are adaptable. We train our fighters to make decisions based on changing situations. A small group of determined humans can continue fighting indefinitely, especially on their home territory. The aliens conferred briefly in their clicking language before the Admiral spoke again. Your wounded continue to fight after recovery. Some even return with artificial limbs. This suggests your species places combat effectiveness above physical well-being. Dr. Wells joined the conversation. Humans are remarkably resilient, Admiral. We have evolved to survive injury and continue functioning. More importantly, we have strong psychological motivations to protect our families and communities, even at personal cost. The Admiral seemed troubled by this answer. Final question. Your historical records show that even after military defeat, your civilian population often continues resistance through unconventional means. Is this common behavior? General Morrison answered firmly. Yes, throughout human history, occupied populations have resisted foreign control. Even with minimal resources, humans will find ways to fight back against invaders. The aliens conferred again, longer this time. The humans waited tensely. Finally, Admiral Vecthora spoke. We must evaluate this new information. Our assessment of the resource cost of planetary acquisition may need revision. The screen went dark. Jack looked up from his console. They've cut the transmission. What does that mean? Sergeant Ramirez asked. Are they going to attack? Dr. Wells shook her head. I don't think so. They seemed genuinely disturbed by what they learned about us. They're recalculating, Captain Donovan said. They expected an easy conquest, and now they're realizing it would be anything but easy. General. Morrison allowed himself a small smile. They're beginning to understand what they're really dealing with. Not just our weapons or technology, but humans themselves. The President joined them, having watched the exchange from a separate room. So our plan is working? Showing them our fighting spirit has made them hesitate? It appears so, Dr. Wells replied. They evolved differently than we did. Violence and continued resistance after defeat don't fit their understanding of rational behavior. Let's hope they're rational enough to make the smart choice, the President said, and leave us alone. As night fell over the command center, the alien fleet remained silent. But for the first time since their arrival, the humans dared to hope. Morning came to the NORAD command center. Most of the team had managed a few hours of sleep in shifts. Jack Collins sat at his station, rubbing his tired eyes as he monitored communications. Dr. Wells worked nearby, reviewing the video of the aliens to learn more about them. I think I understand them better now, she said to no one in particular. Everyone in the room looked up. The Niskan evolved from herd animals, not predators like humans. Their society values group harmony and logical decision-making. The idea of fighting when the odds are bad doesn't make sense to them. Captain Donovan nodded slowly. So showing them our history of fighting against the odds was the perfect strategy. Exactly, Dr. Wells replied. To them, the logical choice when faced with superior technology would be to surrender and preserve lives. Our willingness to suffer and die to protect our freedom is alien to their thinking. General Morrison joined them, fresh from a briefing with the President. Any contact from our visitors? Nothing yet, sir, Jack answered. They've been silent for 8 hours now. Sergeant Ramirez brought in breakfast for the team, coffee and sandwiches from the base cafeteria. As they ate, they discussed what might be happening aboard the alien ships. Aboard the Niskan flagship, a heated debate was underway. The command chamber was divided. On one side stood Admiral Vecthora and those who still favored invasion. On the other side stood Commander Zill and those who now believed conquering Earth would be too costly. The resource expenditure would exceed any possible gain, Commander Zill argued. These humans will not surrender like other species. They will fight street by street, building by building. Even their civilians will resist. Admiral Vecthora's antennae quivered with frustration. We cannot return to the Confederation having failed our mission. We were sent to acquire this planet. Lieutenant Mev, the young tactical officer, stepped forward. Admiral, I have completed a new analysis based on the human combat footage. May I present my findings. The Admiral nodded reluctantly. Mev activated the main screen. It showed simulations of Niskan troops attempting to occupy human cities. The simulations were not favorable to the aliens. Even with our technological advantages, humans have several key strengths we cannot easily counter, Mev explained. First, they know their territory intimately. Second, they can operate in small independent groups. Third, they will use our own technology against us once they capture examples of it. Dr. Cao, the medical officer, added her concerns. The human's ability to endure physical hardship exceeds our own. Our troops are not conditioned for the kind of prolonged combat these humans regularly engage in. Strategic Officer Pell displayed his own analysis. Standard invasion protocols require submission of the target species within 14 cycles. Based on human history, resistance would likely continue for hundreds or even thousands of cycles. Admiral. Vague Thora paced the chamber, his purple skin darkening with stress. What alternatives do we have? The Confederation expects results. Commander Zill spoke carefully. There are other resource-rich systems in this sector that might offer less resistance. We could classify humans as a high-cost acquisition species and recommend observation rather than immediate conquest. The Admiral stopped pacing. You suggest we simply leave? After coming all this way? I suggest we make a tactical decision based on new information, Zill replied. The humans have shown us who they are. They are not like the other species we have encountered. The cost of subduing them would drain our resources for generations. Back on Earth, the wait continued. Governments worldwide remained on high alert. Military forces stood ready, though everyone knew conventional weapons would likely be useless against the alien technology. In the NORAD command center, Jack suddenly sat up straight. Activity detected. The alien fleet is moving. Everyone rushed to their stations. On the main screen, they watched as the 7 massive alien ships began to shift position. Are they preparing to attack? General Morrison asked tensely. Dr. Wells studied the data. I don't think so. Their formation is changing, but they're not moving closer to Earth. They're repositioning, Captain Donovan observed. But why? Jack's console beeped. Incoming transmission. The screen showed Admiral Vic Thora. The alien leader looked different somehow, his posture more rigid, his color slightly darker. People of Earth, the Admiral began. The Niskan Confederation has completed its assessment of your planet. The humans in the command center held their breath. Based on extensive review of your combat capabilities and resistance potential, we have classified Earth as a Class 5 combat zone. This designation indicates that resource acquisition would require excessive expenditure with uncertain results. The Admiral paused. The humans exchanged glances, hardly daring to hope. We are therefore suspending our acquisition plans at this time. The Niskan Confederation will withdraw from your solar system pending further review by our central authority. General. Morrison stepped forward. Admiral, are you saying you're leaving? The alien's compound eyes fixed on the general. We are reassigning our fleet to more suitable acquisition targets. Your species has demonstrated unusual persistence in combat scenarios. The cost-benefit analysis no longer supports immediate action. In simpler terms, Captain Donovan thought they decided we're too much trouble to fight. Before we depart, the Admiral continued, our Confederation protocols require me to formally acknowledge your status. You are officially recognized as a Class 5 combat species. Only 3 such species have been identified in our exploration history. Dr. Wells couldn't contain her curiosity. What happened to the other Class 5 species you encountered? We maintain observation stations at a safe distance from their territories, the Admiral replied. Direct engagement was deemed unproductive. The President, who had joined them during the transmission, stepped into view. And will you be observing us as well? Minimal observation only. Our recommendation to the Confederation will be to delay further contact with humans for at least 100 of your years, after which diplomatic rather than acquisition approaches may be considered. The screen went dark. For a moment, nobody spoke, and cheers erupted throughout the command center. On the main screen, they watched as the alien ships began to move away from Earth. "They're really leaving," Jack said in amazement. "Because they saw who we really are," Sergeant Ramirez added. "They saw humans fighting and decided not to mess with us." General Morrison turned to Captain Donovan. "Your plan worked, Captain. You showed them our fighting spirit, and it scared them off." Captain Donovan smiled slightly. "Not just our fighting, sir. Our determination. Our refusal to give up even when the odds are bad." "What happens now?" Jack asked. The president looked at the screen where the alien ships were growing smaller as they moved away. "Now we prepare. We have 100 years until they come back. Let's make sure we're ready for a diplomatic meeting next time." "And if diplomacy fails?" General Morrison asked. "Then we'll show them that humans have only gotten better at fighting in the meantime," the president replied. "But let's hope it doesn't come to that." As the alien fleet disappeared from Earth's sensors, a new chapter in human history began. For the first time, humanity knew for certain they were not alone in the universe. And the universe had just learned that humans were not to be taken lightly. 1 month after the Niskan fleet departed, the world was still adjusting to the new reality. Humanity was not alone in the universe, and their reputation as fighters had already saved them once. Lieutenant Jack Collins stood at the window of the newly created Extraterrestrial Contact Division headquarters in Colorado. The facility had been built quickly, combining military resources with scientific expertise. Jack had been promoted and assigned to lead communications efforts for future alien contacts. Dr. Patricia Wells entered the room, carrying 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to Jack and joined him at the window. "Thinking deep thoughts?" she asked. Jack smiled. "Just wondering what the Niskan are telling other aliens about us. Probably warning them to stay away from the crazy fighting species in the Sol system," Dr. Wells replied with a small laugh. Their conversation was interrupted as Captain Lisa Donovan entered. She too had received a promotion and now led the tactical analysis team. "The president's address is about to start," she said. They moved to the conference room where Sergeant Kevin Ramirez, now Staff Sergeant Ramirez, had set up a large screen. General Morrison joined them as the president appeared on screen, addressing the United Nations General Assembly. "1 month ago, we faced the greatest threat in human history," the president began. "Aliens with technology far beyond our own came to conquer Earth. They expected us to surrender. Instead, we showed them who we really are." The camera panned across the assembly hall, showing representatives from every nation on Earth. The Niskan left because they saw our determination to fight for our home, no matter the odds. They recognized something in humans that made them reconsider their plans. Our fighting spirit saved us without a single shot being fired. Jack and his colleagues nodded in agreement. Their plan had worked better than anyone could have hoped. "But we cannot simply return to our old ways," the president continued. "The Niskan gave us 100 years before they return. We must use this time wisely. Today, I am proud to announce the formation of the Earth Defense Initiative, a global effort to prepare humanity for future encounters with alien civilizations." The room erupted in applause. On screen, representatives from nations that had been enemies just weeks before stood together, united by the shared experience of nearly being invaded. "The initiative will have 3 main goals," the president explained. "First, to advance our technology and close the gap between Earth and spacefaring civilizations. Second, to establish protocols for peaceful contact with alien species. And third, to prepare defensive measures should diplomacy fail. General Morrison nodded with approval. Smart approach. Peace first, but be ready for the worst. The President concluded his address. The Niskon called us a Class 5 combat species. They saw our history of warfare and decided we were too difficult to conquer. But I believe we can show the galaxy that humans are more than just fighters. We are also builders, thinkers, and explorers. In 100 years, when the Niskon return, let them find a humanity that is strong, united, and ready for peaceful cooperation. As the address ended, the team in Colorado discussed the new initiative. I'll be heading the communications division, Jack announced. We're going to develop better ways to translate alien languages and understand their cultures. The science team is already working on reverse engineering concepts from the Niskon ships, Dr. Wells added. Their propulsion systems operate on principles we barely understand, but we're learning. Captain Donovan shared her news. I'm leading a new training program. We're preparing special teams for potential peaceful contact scenarios, but also for defense if needed. And I'm helping design new security protocols, Sergeant Ramirez said proudly. Ways to protect Earth from technologies we've never seen before. General Morrison looked at his team with pride. 6 weeks ago, you were all doing very different jobs. Now you're helping to prepare humanity for a new era. Later that evening, Jack returned to his new office. On his desk sat a small box that had arrived that morning. Inside was a medal and a note from the President for saving Earth without firing a shot. Jack smiled as he placed the medal in a drawer. He hadn't done it alone. It had been a team effort, an example of what humans could accomplish when they worked together. His computer beeped with an incoming message. It was from Dr. Wells. Found something interesting in the Niskon transmission data. Come to the lab. In the research lab, Dr. Wells and a team of scientists were analyzing the final messages from the alien fleet. Look at this, Dr. Wells said, pointing to a screen filled with data. They were scanning us continuously during our conversations. I think they were checking if we were lying about our combat capabilities. And? Jack asked. And everything matches. Our heart rates, brain activity, all the biological markers they could detect confirmed we're telling the truth. That's why they believed us so quickly. Captain Donovan, who had joined them, nodded thoughtfully. So they knew we weren't bluffing. We really would have fought to the last person. That's what scared them off, Sergeant Ramirez added. They saw we meant business. As they discussed the findings, a young scientist rushed into the lab. Dr. Wells, we've detected a signal from deep space. It's not Niskon. It's something else. The team hurried to the communications center. On the main screen, a pattern of signals pulsed steadily. Is it another alien species? General Morrison asked as he joined them. Jack studied the pattern. No, sir. It's the Niskon, but they're using a different frequency. They're talking to someone else. Dr. Wells analyzed the signal. Based on the direction and strength, they're communicating with someone at least 20 light years away. What are they saying? The general asked. We can't translate it fully yet, Jack replied. But one phrase keeps repeating. We think it translates roughly as approach with caution. Captain Donovan smiled slightly. They're warning others about us. Good, General Morrison said firmly. Let the galaxy know that Earth isn't an easy target. As night fell over the facility, Jack looked up at the stars visible through the window. The universe was vast and filled with unknown civilizations. Some might be friends, others enemies. But one thing was certain. Humanity's reputation as fighters had spread to the stars. Their willingness to defend their home, no matter the odds, had already saved them once, and if necessary, it would save them again. Got in the quiet of the communications center. The alien signal continued to pulse. A warning to the galaxy about the species called humans. A species that had looked at overwhelming odds and refused to back down. A species that had made a technologically superior enemy surrender without firing a single shot. All it had taken was one look at human combat footage